All right, so lesson number 3, guys. So you've just lessons 1 and 2. You wrote about someone you know that has faced prejudice. So now you're going to be reading an informational article, and it's called "Brainy Echidna Proves Looks Aren't Everything." So, based on the title, what do you think the article might be about? And how do you think it's going to relate to the theme of familiarity alters perspective? So if you go ahead and look at that article, if we open it up, and I'll zoom in a little bit on it, and obviously there's a picture there. So Brainy Echidna proves looks aren't everything. So it's a very unusual looking creature, and it's a real animal. And once you get familiar with it, the view should change. So if you don't know anything about what this animal is like, that kind of goes along with what our theme is, how familiarity alters perspective. Later, we're going to be reading the realistic fiction novel called The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and it's about how becoming familiar with various social cliques can change your perspective on the people in them. So what you're going to be doing, now normally in the classroom, we would T4 this article, which means as we're reading it, we would be writing down notes and those sorts of things. But what you can do, because I did make a copy of the article in Google Docs for you, you're totally free to highlight things. You can do editing and notes on that. I'm not really going to go over that with you right now, but there is an editing mode that you could do. But we're not going to worry about that. So highlighting is good. I mean, if you want to take notes on a piece of paper to help you, that's fine too. So I'm not going to read the article to you. The article is there for you to read. It's realistic. It's an article. It's realistic fiction, of course, or nonfiction. So if there's words in here that you're having problems with, do the right thing and look them up, because it's going to help you. One of the things that you can do is you can highlight a word, right click on it, and in some cases you can go to define right here, and it'll give you the definition. But the trick is it doesn't do that for every word. So you can see right there, echidna never came up with a definition. So, that's where you would copy the word. So you could just highlight it, right click and copy it. Then you go up and you can paste it in Google. And you hit enter and it will give you a definition or show you what it is. So, or you use dictionary.com, those sorts of things. One of your activities is going to be some vocabulary words. So not all of the words are in the Google Dictionary. So that would make it a lot easier, but they're not. Okay, so you're going to read the article, and there's a couple of pictures that go along with it. The source of the article is down here. If you want to actually go to the source, it's from the New York Times from 2009. It's always good when you're writing nonfiction to source your information. So let me zoom out of this. Go back to here. So once you're done reading the article, what I'm going to have you do is you're going to read it once, and then you're going to do a close and critical read. Now, those of you that have had me for 6th or 7th grade should be very familiar with close and critical reads, because we do them quite a lot. So the close and critical read, and again, this lesson, guys, is going to take you a couple of classes. If we were in the classroom, we would be working on this one for 2 days. So those of you that are planning on just rushing through and getting it done, I can tell you right now that I'm just going to return it back to you with a 0 until I see some effort put into it. So close and critical read, guys. You open up the document, and I'll kind of go over what the document says. I've kind of changed the wording on some of these. So whenever we do a close and critical read, you're only answering 4 questions. But the biggest problem is some people always forget what these questions mean, and they're not really that difficult. So first one is the easiest. What does the text say? So all you're doing in the box is you're summarizing the article. So you're going to read that article at least twice. And in this box right here, you're going to write me a summary of what that article says. So if you were talking to somebody who didn't have the article in front of them and you were explaining to them about the article you read, what would you say? Obviously, it's a summary. You're not going to say every word that was in the article. So that's where you're going to type this. And if you end up typing more than can fit in the box will automatically get bigger. So, and I don't care how many pages it goes to. All right, so summarize the article. And guys, I'm looking for a paragraph. I'm not looking for one sentence or two sentences. If it looks to me like you put zero effort into it, then your resulting grade will be a 0, and I will just hand it right back to you. How does the author develop the text to convey his or her purpose? Okay, so this is the part that people have the most trouble understanding. So what does the author use to get his point across? Okay, now think about this. The questions are things like, what is the genre? What is the format? How is it organized? Does it have any special features? Go back to the article. Look at it. There's a picture right at the beginning. That's a feature. So if these pictures were not part of the article, you would have no idea what this animal looks like. So, when you're answering that question, how does the author develop the text to convey his or her purpose? You can say, in the article, the author has 2 pictures of a brainy echidna. Okay. Why? Well, because they want you to understand what the animal looks like. What is the genre? It's a nonfiction article, right? So that's what the genre is. If we talk about historical fiction or realistic fiction, whenever we read an article, it's usually nonfiction. How is it format? Like, what's the format of it? Is it written in paragraphs? Is it written as questions? Is it written how? How is it organized on the page? Look at the page. You can see it's written in short paragraphs. It has interviews with doctors. It gives you information about the animal. It gives you suggestions on where to find more information about the animal. All right. And we just talked about features. All right. So that's what I expect in that box. So what does the text mean? So this article, what is the message that the author's trying to get across? I mean, it's a nonfiction article that gives you information about an animal that you're probably not familiar with. So what is the message that the author wants you to get from reading this article? All right, that is all that question is asking. What does the text mean? So tell me what message the author's trying to get across to you. And, that should take you about 3 or 4 sentences. And then finally, the last one. So whenever we read an article, I always ask people that read it, so why is this article worth sharing or telling other people about? So maybe you read about it, maybe you're not that interested in it, but what would you tell other people? Okay, why is the article worth sharing and telling? What significance does it have in your life or to the lives of others? So maybe, it reminds you of a time when you went to the zoo and you saw an animal that you had never seen before. Or, maybe it means, it brings to light the fact that there are lots of other animals and living things and things that you have no idea exist. So how is that significant? Does it make you curious? Does it make you want to look things up? So that's the close and critical read section. All right. And that's something that we have done. Let me zoom in again. And that is something that we have done many times before. So you should be able to get that. All right. And it's going to take you some time. So don't get frustrated and don't just scribble anything down. Put some thought into it. And finally, the last 2. So we're going to do a quick write and we're going to do vocabulary. So I've set up the vocabulary page for you already. These are the words that I want you to look up. And like I said, some of these words, if you highlight the word, like I'm going to highlight the word illuminating, I'm going to right click on it and go to define. And there we go. So the dictionary has a definition here of what it means already. So what you can do is read the definitions, read the article, read the definition, decide which one of these definitions is the closest to what you think it means. Okay, because within the context of the article, it might mean something different. It might be definition 1, or it could be definition 3, or it could be definition 2. So you have to make that decision. And then you're just going to write the definition in your own words. All right. Now, if for some reason you do, I know the word lure here, if I go to define it, it shows up blank. So that would be an example of you having to go to dictionary.com to look it up. Or if you have a dictionary handy at home, you can use that as well. So those are the definitions for 11 words. And then the last thing is a quick write. So we do quick writes quite a bit. A quick write is just a rapid writing strategy, and it helps you develop your writing fluency. So after you read this question, I want you to set a timer for 3 minutes. And if you don't have a timer handy, go to Google and type in 3-minute timer, and it'll automatically pop a timer up. And then you're going to read the question, and you have to write for 3 minutes. You can't stop writing to answer this question. All right. So it says, who or what things might you appreciate more if you became more familiar with them? Explain your answer. So I don't want you to think a lot about that question before you start writing. I just want you to start writing off the top of your head and see what you can come up with. All right. So like I said, this will take you probably a couple of hours, because this article is going to take you at least half hour to read through a couple of times. And then the close and critical read questions will take you another half hour or so. So make sure that you allot enough time for yourself and look at the due date. The due date is due on Monday, October 26th. So you remote students, make sure that I have that in there, and I am starting to take points off for late work. So if you turn it in late, I'm going to be taking off 10% a day. When you get to 4 days late, you're at a D- already. And if it's a 5th day late, then you've automatically failed the assignment. So just bear that in mind as you go through this. If you have any questions, if you're a remote student, make sure you contact me through email, or Wednesday when I have my Zoom open. Just log into Zoom, ask me questions then. Good luck.